Hello, hello, hello. This is Samantha coming to you live from my kitchen in Glenelg. How are you going? Hope you're going well. Yeah, things have gotten a lot better lately and life has gotten better. I actually got a new job recently. It's really cool. I served the essay premiere last weekend. That was really overwhelming. But anyway, sorry I haven't posted for a while. I had a pretty bad cold and I still do, if you can hear my voice. But oh well, I'm fine. I love my podcasts. So let's get this show on the road. The next chapter is Year 12 Formal. Oh boy, here we go. The Year 12 Formal, a night I dreamt of my entire life, must have been because I went through a phase where I could not stop watching High School Musical. As we all know, the Year 12 Formal looks amazing in that movie. However, in real life, it's not quite as magical. It's like a standard party, except everyone dresses up fancy and they try to look their best, like the prom queen. Then again, we live in Australia where there is no prom queen. The closest thing we have to a prom queen is the hottest girl in the school. The hottest girl at my school was actually very nice, well, at least to my face. The day of the formal was stressful for all of us. My school was so lame that they wouldn't even let us have a day off to get ready. We had to be there normally. All Year 12s could leave at 1 p.m. However, for some girls, that was still not enough time. Some spent a month getting ready for the formal, getting fake orange tans and dyeing their hair. I dyed my hair blonde, whereas this one chick looked as if she had tried to dye her hair red, but it had gone all over her skin. Oompa loompa doopity-doo. Anyway, I raced out the door only for my mum to be frantically waiting for me in the car. We rushed home, got me changed, and rushed to the clip joint. Surprisingly, getting my hair and makeup done was quicker than I thought. It only took 2 hours for both my hair and makeup to be done. They even took a photo of me to use as an example for future customers. It's quite a compliment, I must say. The girl who did my hair, yeah, she was an awesome person. She was really good to talk to, really friendly. I recommend Clip Joint only. Amazing. Anyway, back to the story. When I got home, there wasn't much to do except freak out. There was only an hour until my boyfriend was due to show up, and I wanted it to be perfect. Oh my God. I could be a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to these things. I guess I watched too many high school movies. While I waited, being the cringy girl I am, I listened to Can I Have This Dance on repeat. I guess the song outlined all the expectations and fantasies I had about going to the formal. It felt so weird because I dreamt about my senior formal my entire life and the night had finally arrived. I can recall watching countless high school rom-com movies as a child, just watching characters fall in love at the high school dance. As corny as that is, I always adored rom-coms, especially the cheesy high school ones. Anyway, my boyfriend at the time soon arrived. He really went all out for me with a corsage that matched my dress and a really fancy suit. When he saw me, he smiled and blushed. It was the cutest thing ever. While our relationship had a rough ending, he was a good boyfriend at the time and I really did like him. I mean, he got me through the difficult part of Year 12 and for a while he was there for me when I needed him. Before I left, I tried to find something to put in my hair. It was half up, half down, with a plaited bun at the back and gentle curls down the sides. My hair had been teased and I had a space for a tiara or clip at the front. So I searched around the room, then came across my tiara, which just happened to match my dangling earrings. I knew it may have been a bit over the top, but I didn't really care. I looked like a queen. So I went like a queen. It was funny because when I got there, some people did say I was queen. It was kind of hilarious. Yeah, the other girls in my year level, they used to call me, like, Queen. I'm pretty sure they were taking the piss, but anyway. We arrived at the Stanford Grand, where special glasses of juice and soft drink were being served. Oh, God. I can imagine being a minor again, no thanks. I thought it was silly because I already knew that a certain group of boys would bring alcohol in, which they did. I even saw a flask fall out of one of their pockets. It was pretty funny because the guy who had it put it back into his pocket faster than light, I swear. If he was caught with it, he would have been in so much trouble. Anyway, the night went on nicely with a beautiful dinner followed by a couple of hours of dancing. It only went to 11 p.m, which was pretty weak, if you ask me. Everybody immediately went home to get ready for the after party in the city. Little did I know, the after party wasn't going to be quite what we expected. There were over 10 older adult chaperones who stood by the front door, dance floor, seating area, and even in the bloody toilets. Oh, God. Yeah, this was so bad. Like, it was supposed to be a formal after party. Usually they're held at someone's house so we can get on the piss, yeah? But the adults, like, were at the party, like, at the venue everywhere, chaperoning, and, like, even in the bloody toilets. Like, we couldn't just chill. It was kind of shit. But anyway, us girls like to go to the toilet to have private conversations. But we couldn't even do that because there was a woman we didn't know standing right there, awkwardly watching us like a hawk. Honestly, that was pretty shit. Then again, they didn't care if we hooked up and stuff. All they were there for was to make sure there were no drugs or alcohol. The no alcohol rule was implemented because of the venue. They would have lost their liquor license if they served alcohol to a bunch of minors. Some of us were adults, but that didn't matter because only half of us were like 17, including me and my boyfriend at the time. There was a dance floor complete with flashing lights. We arrived early, so no one was on the dance floor just yet. It looked like a depressing, empty nightclub. That feeling when you walk into Dog and Duck and nobody's arrived yet kind of vibe. My boyfriend and I danced once others arrived. I hadn't had any alcohol that night, therefore I arrived completely sober. Yikes. Unfortunately, I wasn't aware that everybody else were doing prees. My other friend arrived, both smashed and stoned. It was quite hilarious. The same guy who brought a flask to the formal had brought a small bottle of green fairy with him to the party. As people started to arrive, the dance floor became packed. I saw him reach into his pants to retrieve the bottle. He offered it around. I said no because I knew where it had been. On his dick. Oh, God. Yeah, that's true. Like, he had his stuff down his pants. It wasn't very sanitary. Also, my boyfriend was sober at the time, and I didn't want to be too drunk on our special night. Usually, I'd love to get drunk, but it was that one time I made the smart decision to remain sober. Meanwhile, a friend of mine called Thomas was getting on with a chick. They snuck around the corner for a cheeky hookup and were caught by the chaperone. It was funny because they didn't care. I mean, as long as they weren't sneaking into the toilets together, it was all right. Oh, God, I remember that. It was gross. Yeah, something I didn't write in here. This one guy in my year level came up to me and he tried to kiss me and I was like, I have a boyfriend. And he was like, no. He probably doesn't remember that though. Anyway. Eventually I'd had enough. The party wasn't that interesting if I'm being honest. And some kids from our school in the year below even showed up, which was super weird. I even spotted the same group of underage girls in a club once while they were all still 17. Pretty bad if you ask me. Why get a fake ID? I mean, from what I experienced, waiting is worth it because you can experience clubbing any time after age 18. No need to do it early because if you do, then once you're legal, it isn't as interesting. So yeah, my formal night was pretty awesome despite the average after party. So yeah, that was the formal chapter. And that was year 12. So now we're going to go back a few years, all the way back to year 8. You know that annoying ex-boyfriend you wish you never dated? For me, that was my second boyfriend in high school, Jamie. Now, he used to be quite nice to me, giving me compliments, effort, romantic gestures, dates, cuddles, and endless kisses. By the time we reached year 12, we were no more than enemies. He would basically pretend I wasn't there, as he turned out to be the most rude, obnoxious, judgmental, sarcastic fuckboy I'd ever known. Whoa, okay, this is a bit much. But it's all kind of true. He was a bit of a cuck. Anyway, the funny thing was, he wasn't even that attractive. He used his wicked charisma to pull the ladies in, and unfortunately, I was one of them. This romance also blossomed in year 8. What I liked about him was that he wasn't afraid to go after what he wanted. We barely knew each other until mid-year 2015. It was on some fair day that we bonded over a cheeky game of truth or dare that involved almost half the year level. We were upstairs outside a building when I decided it would be a good idea to play truth or dare. It started off with a small group of us, which then turned into basically everyone. Oh God, here we go. There were a few awkward kissing dares, including me being dared to kiss him on the cheek. He wickedly pointed his finger to his cheek in desperation for the touch of my lips. Sorry, I'm sorry, this is, oh my God. Okay, I'm back. When I kissed him, he let out a sigh of pleasure. Oh my God, this writing is... Suddenly, the dark fire hose closet became part of our dare game. I dared a couple of my friends to go in there and torture each other. My best friend took over... Oh my God, I can barely get through this. This is so cringe. My best friend took her whistle with her and basically caused a poor guy to be deaf for a few minutes. It was hilarious. Another guy was dared to get up on a table, dance and pour water over his head. I still have that video to this day. Someone then dared Jamie and I to go inside the fire hose closet and pretend to make out and make a big scene of it. We entered the closet in front of everyone. The popular girls got out their phones and filmed the whole thing. Everyone was cheering outside while Jamie and I were left standing in the dark. I couldn't see him, but I felt him put his arms around my waist. I placed my arms around his neck. We pretended to make out, but I wanted to make out for real. After a few intense seconds, someone opened the door to let us out. We were very close to kissing. I wondered if it was just the atmosphere or the dare itself, but we were vibing. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I wrote this 2 years ago. Please don't bully me. All right, here we go. We began texting on Facebook Messenger. Things got intense very quickly. We wanted to see each other, but the term had just ended, so we decided to go on a few dates during the holidays. Everything went incredibly well, as he said and did everything right. I remember loving the affection he gave me every day. He didn't care what everyone else thought. He'd cuddle me, hold my hand, put his arm around me, and kiss me when no one was watching. Our friends supported our relationship, and this was when we created a group of my friends and his friends all together. Everything was perfect for a while, as we'd sit in the private garden behind the chapel hand in hand, laughing with our friends. Occasionally, they'd make the odd romantic joke aimed at Jamie and I, but we just laughed it off. We even went to the Royal Show as a group that year. It was so perfect, we even kissed during the fireworks. Ugh. A year after that, he told me that he was more interested in the fireworks than kissing me. He was a real arsehole. Anyway, I once had a party at my dad's house where we were crazy. We danced around, played truth or dare, spin the bottle, and never have I ever. Oh God, this is so 12-y. How I loved my amazing new friends. One of the dares was for my friend Rhubarb to hop down the street, which he did. We ended up getting told off by my strict father for that, which was hilarious. Another dare was for my two friends to do the duck dance, which was great. The night eventually ended with another two of my friends kissing and Jamie and I making out in the closet for a solid half hour. I truly thought I had found my friends for life. Ugh, boy, was I ever so wrong. Fast forward 4 years. I saw these people in the schoolyard and boy did I try my best to avoid them, especially Jamie. In another chapter you'll find out why. He may have turned out to be an asshole in the end, but at least he taught me how to be in a relationship. It ended after 4 months as the connection just fizzled out. I knew this and it made me sad because it was a good relationship at the time. We just stopped talking as much, the affection stopped and so did the romance. Then I had an emotional breakdown to scare him away and it worked. I didn't know how to break up with someone, so I let him do the honors. For a while I was sad, then I wasn't. I realized it was just my first relationship and there would be more to come. And boy, were there a few after that. So yeah, that's the first boyfriend chapter. Well, first, proper boyfriend in more than 2 weeks. Sorry, actual first boyfriend, you know who you are. But yeah, that was only 2 weeks. Doesn't really count. It was just a cute little thing. Anyway. Oh God. This next story, Year 9 camp, is probably the most embarrassing camp I've ever been to in my life. Literally everything went wrong. Anyway, let's go. There comes a time in our lives where we have no choice but to pack our bags and head off to hell. For me, this was Year 9 camp 2016, where everything went completely wrong. It all began with a long, uncomfortable bus ride. I was busy listening to my pal Avicii when I suddenly realized I needed to pee. I thought that aggressively guzzling down 4 bottles of chocolate milk was a good idea. Concerned, I turned to the back of the bus, only for no toilet to be seen, but a transparent window displaying the outback, of which there were no buildings to be seen for miles. Hesitantly, I asked the teacher how long it would be till we arrived. She told me it was not for another hour and a half. I felt a rush of panic, my hands drenched in sweat, my cheeks as red as tomatoes, and my legs tensed up as I held it in. I really had to go, so they had to stop the bus for me. In the blink of an eye, I bolted out the bus and through the bushes. Thinking no one could see, I did my business and hopped back on. However, once I entered the bus once again, it was dead silent, and I received various funny looks. I brushed it off by sitting down and putting my earphones back in as fast as possible, forcing myself to forget what just happened. When we arrived, things only got a whole lot worse. A frenemy of mine had let me know what really went on while I went for a bush wee. She said, "You know everyone could see your lady part, right?" I had never been so humiliated in my life. Let's just say I hid my face from everybody for the remainder of the day. Yeah, I know it's embarrassing to share this with the world, but fuck, that was embarrassing. And I'm sure something like this has happened to all of us. I had a lovely tent partner, but we were to do solo night first. The camp counselor explained that we were to be in tents by ourselves that night. I felt a shimmer down my spine. Staying in a tent alone? I didn't even know how to camp properly, let alone put up my own tent. However, that night I had no choice. We were released into the wild, each tent 100 meters away from each other. Since my tent buddy wasn't too far away, I didn't feel too uncomfortable. Before setting up, I glanced at my surroundings. How I loved the outback, covered in gum trees, rocks, animals, and a river's blue sky above. Dawn arrived and I found myself staring at the sunset. It was yellow, orange, red, and pink, blended together like a true work of art. By the way, not dawn, dusk. I wrote this like 3 years ago, this chapter. Anyway, I found myself staring at the sunset until the stars were out to say hello. Suddenly, I realized it was time to set up my tent before I couldn't see anything. Frantically, I tried my best. I managed to piece it all together, then realized a pole was broken. I looked around to find anyone close by, but the leaders were long gone and my classmates had all settled in. I was the last man standing. I remember this. It was quite traumatic. No, not really. I'm just fucking with you. After a while of waiting for a counsellor to come check on us, I started to panic. What if I was going to be stuck like this all night? I wondered. For a couple of hours, I sat there feeling cold and humiliated. I didn't want anyone to know I couldn't set up a tent, so I didn't ask for their help. Eventually, I was found and saved. I didn't ever speak of what happened, naturally. I was woken up to the sound of tiny raindrops the next day. We were forced to pack our things away and stay in the bus for breakfast while the teachers and counsellors found a solution. We were moved to the local hall, where we were forced to remain for the remainder of the day. This camp was supposed to be boys and girls separate, but they had no choice but to put us in there together, which was chaos. It was supposed to be a sacred place of the Lord. And boy, did we treat it like the devil's lair. A game of table tennis began, along with a gossip circle and a group of people being crazy. The teachers had given up at this point, causing us to cut loose. Someone jumped on the tennis table, only for it to collapse to the ground. But they didn't care as they continued hitting the ball back and forth without the table, only for a few people to get hit in the face. Others marched straight in with muddy shoes, causing the place to look like a sewer. Things got so out of hand that even a floorboard broke. It was the most fun I'd had on that camp, until the guy I liked at the time asked out another girl. She said no, but I was still jealous. After being rejected, he had publicly humiliated himself in front of everyone. I was there to comfort him as he acted like he didn't care. I knew he did. For some reason, people started teasing us as we sat next to each other and talked. They obviously thought we were vibing or some shit. Under pressure, I guess we were. It became awkward, and we suddenly had nothing to say to each other. I opened my mouth, only for not one word to come out. I thought about what we could talk about, then finally found something. Can't remember what it was. At the exact same moment, so did he. We turned towards each other, only for our lips to be accidentally less than an inch away. Everyone laughed. I got up and ran away as I couldn't handle that camp any longer. I just wanted to go home. Everyone was talking about how we would be good together, so he asked me out when we went back to school. However, the relationship only lasted for a day. Someone exclaimed that it was like a short essay. Well, he wasn't wrong. If there's anything that camp taught me, it was to not guzzle down chocolate milk on a long drive, never go for a bushwee in front of everyone, don't get myself lost in the wild, pull a sickie next time there's a school camp. Most definitely stay away from that guy, which is ironic because I did until year 11, but that's another story. All right, this next story isn't as funny. It's a little more sad. And I'm not going to say any names for privacy purposes. Right, here we go. In year 10, I went through a phase where I was somewhat happy. I made new friends, had an incredible boyfriend, and was part of a good group. We called ourselves the Original 8. as the first gathering we had included 8 of us. We had a gathering at my house which went surprisingly well. I was single at the time, which only made it more fun. We played saucy games, such as Truth or Dare and Spin the Bottle. My 2 girlfriends ended up kissing, which was hilarious, and I ended up making out with this one guy for quite a while. The makeout session ended when I felt something quite huge touching my pelvis. We were a solid group for a while until things started to get ugly. One of my friends dated my sensitive guy friend for a while, but she dumped him, which broke up part of the group. So we decided to change it up. We made new friends and hung out with them at my house. This was the time I was talking to a young man named, I'm just going to call him Jamie again, Jamie, who turned out to be my first great love. He was at the gathering that night where I basically made out with him the whole time. At the time, I was so wrapped in him and what was going on that I didn't realize I may have made my friends uncomfortable. Mum told me that when my friend Trixie was leaving, Ellie followed her. Trixie suggested that Ellie came back to her place, but she chose to stay the night at mine for some reason. Jamie eventually left, and Trixie and I giggled about it all night. The 2 months were amazing. I had 3 amazing friends, a cute boyfriend, and a real social life. I loved Jamie so much that I would write his name with a heart around it all over my school diary. One time, Trixie sent him a photo jokingly saying I was cheating, as me and one of my girlfriends were in a passionate embrace. It was only a joke. Well, not really. I truly had never been happier at that school. This soon came crashing down after Jamie and I broke up. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do with myself. I had never felt this kind of heartbreak in my life. I truly thought we were going to stay together for a long time, but we didn't. He wasn't in a good place, and it had a bad impact on me. I knew that it was no longer healthy and I had to let him go, but I'd never been so depressed in my life. Well, that's true, but I've grown up a bit. That's changed. Anyway, a month went by and I was furious with everyone and everything. I tried to talk to my friends about it, but felt uncomfortable for some reason. I didn't want them to see me cry. Oh, that's really depressing, but it's kind of true. Countless people asked me what happened, but I turned away to protect myself. I didn't want anyone to see how hurt I was. I began to feel fed up with my friends. One day, my friends, minus Trixie, were sitting on a bench talking about the new Duff movie. Then I jokingly asked who the Duff was in our group. They said Trixie in unison. Hesitantly, I agreed and went along with what they said. However, Trixie somehow found out about this conversation. Since I started it, I was apparently the bad guy. She started to treat me differently, which came through during PE. We were to team up and choreograph a dance. Trixie was extremely bossy, which pissed me off big time. One day, I'd had enough of her mind games and the backstabbing, so I snapped. After I snapped, she left the room. My other friends went after her. She came back and told me Trixie was really upset. I didn't say anything. I just sat there staring into space, imagining Jamie's arms were still around me, but they weren't. I was isolated. Then after taking some time, I went after them. I stood outside the girls' toilets and heard everything they said. Trixie said I needed to get a life and to stop talking about people behind their backs. I entered the room and told her that she was a hypocrite. They both were, for the way they behaved towards me. I suddenly realised they weren't real at all. They never were. So I told them I'd rather fly solo than be part of their fake group. And I left. It only got worse. One of my friends had a problem with a guy called Kelly, who liked her, but she didn't like him back. So she asked me for help about how to reject him. So I told her not to be too harsh and to just tell him the truth. However, he had a go at me, saying she told him she didn't want to be with him because I was pressuring her. What absolute bullshit. I was a decent person trying to help out a friend, and she goes and pulls that shit to make herself look like the good guy, even though it made me look like the bad guy. Yeah, she full on threw me under the bus, and then people started thinking that I was a bad friend when really I was being supportive. Yeah, that was a bitch move. I mean, she got better in later years, but yeah. So yeah, then he went and told me that my friends never liked me. And yeah, I got really upset because, well, deep down I kind of knew that. The next day they were being plain awful, so I decided to move on. I found my friends from the year below hanging out on a bench. I approached them and sat down right on the bench. Without hesitation, I cried my heart out as if I were releasing all the pain I felt. The boys reacted immediately, comforting me, asking me what was wrong and putting their arms around me. A boy called Daniel approached me, sat beside me, and cuddled me with my head against his chest. He smelled good. I knew I had found my new friends. So yeah, after I left that group, I joined another. But yeah, this group was quite different. The Year 11s. Honestly, my ultimate saviours at the school. After several weeks of talking it out with them, I was better than ever before. They welcomed me right under their wing and treated me like one of their own. A guy in the group named Bob specifically said that I was one of them. He truly felt I'd become part of their group. Well, at least for 2 years I was. Everything was amazing for a while. I would go to their birthday celebrations, share memes, run around, act crazy, and share secrets with those I was closest to. Bob, Daniel, and Rory were my closest friends of the bunch. Particularly Bob, as I grew to like him more than a friend. He was tall, handsome, creative, funny, artistic, and charismatic. He would open conversations with the strangest topics possible and somehow made them work. However, the first guy I liked out of all of them was Daniel. He was just so tall, gorgeous, and he smelt nice. He had light brown hair, a perfect smile, and brown eyes you could fall into. While I was friends with the girls, I got talking to the boys on Sports Day 2017. I bonded with Rory, Daniel, Hamish, Tom, and Michael. Yeah, they're all fake names and I've got them written down, so yeah, bear with me there. We just sat there, shared memes, and talked about how funny it was that I couldn't run 800 metres. Yeah, back then I couldn't do it. I can do it now though. While the popular kids strutted their stuff, we made a meme out of the occasion. I knew they were amazing boys I could relate to, so I started hanging out with them once a week. As they happened to be amazing people, I also liked the attention, being the lady of the group. Not all of them liked me in that way, but there were a couple of affairs involved, which were kept a secret. Since everything was going well with them, I had a new social network of friends to invite to my 16th birthday party. It was a very special party full of smart, weird, creative people who will rule the world someday. Most of the boys had never been invited to a real party before and were eternally grateful. I remember I made a speech in front of everyone at my party, and I said I loved everyone there. Then Bob shouted, "Love you too." My heart was soaring. Then I said, "Well, I love you, darling." Everyone laughed, and then the true fun began. I ended up giving Bob a peck on the lips as a dare. Then when it got dark, I sat on the chair by the pool to take in the amazing feeling of the party atmosphere. Daniel approached and sat on my lap. He asked if I was having a good birthday. I said yes. We cuddled for a while. I was feeling cheeky, so I kissed him on the cheek, which then turned to lips. We were there making out on the chair. I leant away for a moment and saw all the other boys in the group standing on the veranda staring. Without thinking, Daniel and I moved to the side of the house, where we ended up making out for quite some time. I truly thought there was going to be something between Daniel and I, but all I had done was create drama in the group. When I returned to school on Monday, I expected things to be different, that Daniel and I would become official and that my group would continue to thrive. But to my dismay, the exact opposite occurred. He started ignoring and avoiding me, taking half the group with him. I had split the group in half and felt terrible about it. After weeks and weeks of awkwardness, I finally approached him and asked why. He told me he was embarrassed because everyone found out. Since I was young and naive, I took it personally. This may have created a bump along the road, but it did not stop me from hanging out with them. However, I was extremely heartbroken at the time. Yeah, I really liked Daniel. You know who you are if you're listening, yeah. But honestly, we weren't ready for a relationship. You weren't, I wasn't. No hurt feelings, dude. Love you. Anyway, time passed and I no longer cared about what happened with Daniel. Instead, I focused on being friends with the boys. Each day, I told myself not to get involved with any of them. As usual, I didn't listen to my instincts. Bob and I became pen pals, emailing each other every day, talking about anything and everything. The more we talked, the more I liked him. Eventually, I fell in love with him. I realized everything that happened with Daniel was a mistake and thought it was Bob I was meant to be with. Boy, was I wrong. He told me he liked me back, then suddenly he wasn't ready for a relationship. Boy, did that cut deep. Only a couple of months later, he turned his affections towards my friend Ellie. I was incredibly jealous. I felt like he treated me like the scum of the earth and her like a princess. I compared myself to her. She was tall, cute, and slender, where I was tall and chunky. I started hating the way I looked and ate next to nothing for a few weeks. I wanted to be skinny, as I thought that was part of my problem. I had been single for quite a while at the time, and I thought I was putting boys off by being fat. I went back on light and easy and lost tons of kilos once again, only to realise my weight was never the problem. He just liked her more. I accepted it but never got over it. I found myself looking over at them, wishing I was good enough in his eyes. Then again, deep down, I knew high school wasn't my window. Even if we ended up together, I would have entered university free and single. Still, the song Cinema reminds me of Bob, and it still does to this day. Yeah, I really did like him, and I still talk to him sometimes. But, I mean, he recently told me the truth as to why he acted like that. He told me that he did like me and he was just being a boy, pretty much. But I find that hard to believe because, even when I talk to him now, he still gets scared and shy, but that's his problem. Anyway, to get over Bob, I decided a rebound boyfriend or hook up with another guy in his year level was a good idea. A gothic, depressing, hot guy named Tom suddenly appeared in our group. He had dark eyes, black hair, pale skin, and almost never smiled. For some reason, I found him incredibly attractive, despite being in love with Bob. Tom and I had something in common. We both felt led on. Turns out, Ellie had led him on for a few months, only for his heart to be shattered into a million pieces. Okay, that's a little dramatic. Anyway. Therefore, we understood each other and decided to get to work. We ended up talking and hanging out a lot. What I liked most about him was that he was one of the only people at the school who didn't care what others thought. We made out in the chapel, Suavita, and behind a building once. I felt things were going well and that my heart was healing. However, we weren't right for each other, but it was fun talking and hanging out with him, as he was and always will be a top guy. Within the Year 11 group, I truly did have too many romantic encounters, so many that I ended up creating a reputation for myself as the school slut. I hated it. Then again, I would rather be called a slut than fat, so I rolled with it and showed them the biggest slut they'd ever see. Everyone saw me in this way, except a beautiful person named Rory, who had been crushing on me for 3 years despite everything I said and did. He was the most loyal, trustworthy, kind person I had ever met. He was tall with light brown hair, big brown eyes, tanned skin, a beautiful smile, and a toned bod. He was extremely good looking, but incredibly awkward, as many things I said shocked his innocent mind. We were in choir together when we first met. Then he showed up the same Friday night youth group, where we bonded over being singers and actors. In Year 9, I found myself crushing on him, as he was one of the only people who was nice to me at the time. He had that kind of, nice vibe about him, like a bright kind of aura. But anyway, we had the kind of connection where we could talk for hours about anything. It took me 2 years to discover he always liked me too. There were close encounters, but it just never happened, not until Year 11. We had developed a friendship that still stands to this day. I had plenty of special moments with him by my side. We were in countless musical concerts, youth camps, and youth group sessions together. I remember the night where we first bonded for real. A concert in 2016, where we messed around backstage. We sat in a small corridor between the choir room and the Matoa Hall with a bunch of boys. At first we played Uno, which turned into throwing Uno cards everywhere and acting crazy. Rory even got told off when he caressed one of his friends. The teacher walked past and told them to grow up. It was the funniest thing that happened all night. Shortly after, we were on stage. A very special time with him was at Seiko, a youth camp full of hundreds of Christian teenagers. I wasn't a Christian, as I was just there to enjoy the social aspect. There was a stage with a live band singing Christian songs, which was incredible. Well, despite not really being Christian, they were some really good singers, but anyway. The light show made me feel I was literally floating in heaven as I danced through the clouds of dry ice. The lights turned the clouds purple, pink, red, green, blue, and yellow. Rory and I stood beside the stage as the band played a slow song. Everyone in the crowd began to cuddle up and pray. I turned to Rory, who was looking at me with deep desire, the way I'd always hoped someone would look at me. I took him in my arms and we slowly swayed side to side for about 20 minutes. During this short time, we felt closer than ever before. I remember thinking I could feel his warm, positive energy, and I never wanted to let go. When the prayer time ended, we let go and returned to our seats. This was still by far one of the most romantic moments of my life, even though we didn't kiss. The boys and I went to the Royal Show as a group in 2018. Rory and I were getting close the entire time. cuddling on the Ferris wheel, laughing about everything, wearing the unicorn mask, linking arms and cuddling up during the fireworks. In 2017, I kissed him on the cheek during the fireworks, so I mentioned it to him as we watched the fireworks in 2018. Then he said, maybe we should make it a tradition. I looked around to make sure no one could see. Everyone could see. So I decided to wait until we could find somewhere private, as I did not want to kiss another guy in front of our group again. Because, yeah, I remember what happened the first time I kissed one of the boys in the group. The rest of them stared. It was freaking, yeah, it wasn't good. We found a little alleyway where no one could see us. The stars were glistening above. Our surroundings were non-existent. The faint sound of voices were miles away. And there we were, finally where we wanted to be for years. So I leant in and kissed him. He wrapped his arms around me and I did the same. It was as if all the emotions we felt were being released in that exact moment. Finally, I kissed Rory. But beyond the gates of the showground, we were nothing more than friends. Still, I wonder what might have been if I just waited for Rory all those years ago, as he was the most suitable guy for me all along. I was just too late to realise. The Year 11s were many things, but most of all, they were my saviours, although we had our dramas. And I'll never forget the way they supported me when no one else would. Especially Rory. So yeah, they were my best friends and I still talk to some of them, and I never really got a chance to tell them how grateful I was for how they helped me and accepted me like no one else really did. I mean, things got a little rocky in senior year when I just didn't really hang around them as much. I mean, I was pretty stressed and, well, some of them weren't being particularly nice, but I'll never forget the good times I had with them. That brings us to the end of part 2. There will now be part 3 since I've still got over 10 chapters left. I hope you enjoyed that. This is Samantha Long, over and out. Have a good day and see you next time.